Does family explain who you are? It does if you're Donald Trump, whose inherited wealth and connections have propelled him to.
It can happen.
As a child, Trump's father Fred lived in this building in Woodhaven, Queens. His father, Fred Sr., owned it, along with a number of other houses in the rapidly growing New York City borough. Grandfather Trump didn't start out rich. Born in 1869 from the same German village as the Heinz family, he made $500,000 selling food and sex to gold miners in Washington and the Yukon Territory. According to biographer Gwenda Blair, Trump nabbed the best locations, even building on land he didn't own, and offered customers an almost cartoon-like version of their heart's desire. Familiar? His business partners and workers weren't always so lucky. At times, Seattle police raided the red light district, targeting sex workers, especially Asian women, and leaving white businessmen like Trump alone. At that time, the only immigrants who had ever been declared illegal were Asians. Europeans like Trump were legal residents by default, and in 1892 Trump earned U.S. citizenship on the strength of character witnesses, no papers needed, and voted in the presidential election 12 days later. As the gold fever migrated north, Trump moved with it, running more restaurant bar brothels in Bennett and Whitehorse. Whether by luck or calculation, Trump was out of the country by the time Canadian authorities cracked down on vice, as the gold rush died in 1901. His grandfather might be the reason Donald Trump appears to know so much about immigrants and crime. Trump sailed back to Germany with his profits, got married, and moved to the Bronx, where their daughter was born an unquestioned U.S. citizen, thanks to the 14th Amendment that her nephew would repeal. Elizabeth didn't like New York, so the family decided to repatriate to Germany. It didn't last. Trump was deported back to the U.S. on suspicion of having delayed his return until he was too old for compulsory military service. Still worth about $500,000, Trump invested in Queens real estate, raising an upper-class family in a middle-class neighborhood until he died in the influenza pandemic of 1918. Fred Jr., Trump's father, still a minor, went into the family business with his mother, founding one of the world's first supermarkets and building single-family homes. In 1927, Fred Trump was arrested at a Queens KKK rally. Here's the arrest record, here's the census with the same address, and released with no charges. Either he wasn't really involved, or somehow got away with it, because Trump became very well connected to Catholic and Jewish Democrats the Klan opposed. Thanks to his friends in government, he was awarded contract after contract for taxpayer-subsidized middle-income housing, especially advantaging from New Deal FHA mortgage assistance and New York's Mitchell-Lama program. And he managed to win or settle every lawsuit, accusing him of misappropriating taxpayer money to build a private shopping mall, systematically discriminating against African Americans trying to rent in his buildings, etc. Fred Trump earned tens of millions of dollars and the political connections that would make possible the rise of his son Donald to the status of celebrity billionaire. Some might call it taxpayer funding of privilege. His father's connections got him access to other people's money to rebuild Manhattan from a nearly bankrupt city to an island of sky-high rents. Woodhaven, where Fred Trump grew up, is still a middle-class immigrant neighborhood, exactly at the U.S. median income and 50% owner-occupied. Not at all what many Trump supporters would expect for a 50% foreign-born population, majority first- or second-generation Latinos and Asian Americans. Woodhaven struggles with the same problems as the rest of America's working middle class. Wages lagging behind inflation, effective tax rates far higher than what the rich pay, high costs of education and healthcare. There are few Trump supporters here, but it's not because of income. Trump's dream is not for sale in Woodhaven. Jamaica Estates, where Donald Trump grew up wealthy, is one of the most racially diverse wealthy neighborhoods in the United States. The neighborhood, blocks from the subway and Desi grocery stores, is no longer the 1950s white-only world that Trump knew so well, and its people would not likely vote for their former landlord and neighbor. Trump's dream might be for sale here, but the people aren't buying. Trump's Manhattan is a land where the tallest buildings are no longer monuments to retail or industry, but pencil-thin towers with no public access, where international billionaires now live, literally, above everyone else in the city, and, much like Donald himself, try to sell the world on their new gold rush dreams. It remains to be seen how voters will respond to this grandson of immigrants, who has risen to political prominence, promising 1950s dreams, including an immigration policy that would get his own grandfather deported today. This channel is about tracing roots, and I'd love your input. Please let me know in the comments below a word, person, or place whose roots I should trace, and if you like this video, please share it. There's a lot more coming on New York City history, politics, genealogy, and the connections between us all.